I mentioned a little bit at the beginning, Katie and I are trying to make this recording, and I'm hoping it will work. I mean, we're recording, but what we want to be able to do is record us side by side, where one of us will talk through the pose and the other will be setting up. And so you can both listen and see, hopefully, what's happening. And yeah, I think as Katie said, restorative yoga, it's all about feeling that support. So we will offer some, ideas on how to put yourself in that pose, but certainly do what feels good. So if an extra pillow or not a pillow or something works, do that. And Katie, what else should we let everybody know? Let me know. So Katie, I can't hear you. Oh, I muted you by accident. Thank you.
Unmute. Okay, so I think just some of the benefits, we're really trying to, allow our nervous system to relax, which can be really good, but also just some, you'll find maybe some self or body awareness of where you hold tension. That can be really interesting in restorative yoga, but ultimately you want it to feel so good that you could stay in there for an extended amount of time. And so if you don't find that right away, just making adjustments, and we'll give lots of different ideas and just kind of find something that feels good.
Okay.
We dive in. Okay. So hopefully you have some props, maybe some pillows, cushions, at least maybe a blanket or a towel or something, but we're going to have those nearby. And the first pose that we're going to go into today is supported bridge pose. And this can be really good for releasing the front of the hips. It can be good even for opening up the chest and shoulders as well. So if you have a block or a bolster, I think those would be handy for this one. But otherwise, if you have a towel or a blanket, let's fold it up kind of thick. You might even want to roll it a little bit just so that you can get a little bit of height in this. And then if you have another one, you can, this is more like a blanket or a scarf, but you can kind of make it more lengthwise, maybe to have the other one right now, if you have a blanket that you want to roll more like this as well. So Kathy and everyone, why don't you start by sitting, and then we'll bend our knees. And you can allow one of your rolled up towels or blankets or bolsters, whatever you have, try that down the length of the spine, because that can feel really good to begin with. And then laying back, but have your other stuff nearby. So your other rolled up piece or your block. And so Kathy, if you want to lay down along the bolster there, so it's supporting your spine a little bit. And then we want to lift up the hips. So maybe slide yourself back, Kathy, and just kind of let let your head kind of fall off towards the end of it so your hips are lifted. If you want to put a block underneath your hips or a cushion, we want to try and lift the hips up in a comfortable way. And so if you're using a block, there's 3 sides that you can use. You can have it on short, medium, or tall, just depending on how high you would want your hips on, and just kind of put it underneath that, below your lower back, just in that hip bones, just lifting it up. You want to feel stable. You don't want to feel like you're going to fall off of it. And just finding some breaths here. And Kathy, how does that feel for you?
Good. And I'm going to draw my feet wide and just let my knees come in.
Good. Do that.
But I think you could also just probably have your legs long, right?
Right. And so let the top of the shoulder just kind of open, sink in kind of towards the floor, opening up. You want the front of your body to just feel open here. If you are looking for a deeper hip flexor release, then putting, the block or a cushion or something underneath your hips to lift up a little bit higher can be really good. So we're going to be holding each of these today for 3 minutes. In restorative yoga, a lot of times you'll hold it much longer than that. You can see that Kathy just put a block underneath her bolster. So if you're using, whatever you're using, blanket, towel, and you want to add a little prop, maybe it's a thick book even, if it's going to be under something soft, that could work. You can get really creative. But we'll hold these for 3 minutes today. And then in the recording, if you can always pause it, if you want to watch the recording, you can hold these for longer next time. And so when you're in a comfortable spot, and it's okay if it takes a little bit to find what that is today for your supported bridge, then just allow your breath to help you relax by slowing it down, allowing your inhale to reach your belly. See if you can let your body kind of melt in and just open a little bit, shoulders sinking towards the ground. And if you find during the pose that there is an area of discomfort, and adjust that so that it feels good. It feels like a lot of work to kind of hold your legs up. Make sure you can take your feet wide, halfway shoulder, allow your knees to kind of fall together. If you find yourself getting distracted at all, that's okay. Maybe just think about your breath. Just trying to allow this time to be relaxing, allowing some recovery. And so as we come out of restorative poses, we want to move slowly. We want to allow this relaxation that we've created in our body to be maintained. So maybe just, safely removing anything under your hips if you may fall off of it, but rolling onto one side eventually, or maybe tucking your knees in if that feels good, or lying, supporting your head on one arm and just taking a moment on your side. And when you're ready, just using your hands to gently push yourself slowly back up to seated. Allow your head to be the last thing that lifts. Take your time, not rushing anything. We're going to move into supported butterfly pose. And we're going to, again, want to have all of our supplies that we've gathered for this nearby so that we can experiment a bit. But having a bolster or something along your spine can feel really good in this. And in fact, it can feel even good to be propped up a little bit, leaning onto something too. So again, you can experiment a little bit, but if you have a cushion or anything that maybe you want to lift, you could even, do this leaning against a wall or something more upright if that felt better for you. But we're going to take the bottoms of our feet together. And it also can be helpful to have something underneath your knees here. So Kathy, if you have any extra cushions or blankets, or even just extra rolled up yoga mats, blocks, anything that you can allow your knees to rest on, it's certainly not required, but if you in a butterfly pose feel any groin discomfort, or knee discomfort, then we'll want to support our thighs. So I have these couch cushions that I like to use, and so if you have something to put under your legs, and then as you lean back, something along your spine can be comfortable here, and then allowing again, if it feels okay, your arms to open and just kind of melt in again. Take a couple breaths, and then notice if there's any adjustments you feel like you need to make for comfort. Often you want to maybe adjust anything. If, for example, you feel any pressure on the tailbone and you might want to add a little, blanket or support there, or if you want to be more upright. So just allowing yourself to relax and experiment just a little bit. So if you notice at all that your lower back is arching, then it would be good to have that bolster or rolled up towel or something along the spine to help you with that if you didn't already. And I didn't mention in the first pose, but if you do have an eye mask or an eye pillow and you want to place that over your eyes for these poses, it can be really relaxing. And so we'll hold this one a couple more minutes. Kathy looks very relaxed in her reclining butterfly. And as we're here, just again, allowing your shoulders, your chest to open. Maybe finding a few slow breaths. Okay, and again, slowly transitioning out. Of course, if something just feels really good for you, you can always stay in it even. But we'll just, start to safely come onto our side. And so if you need to move anything, you can do that first, but allow your arm to support your head. And you're side taking a few breaths here. And then whenever you're ready, you can start to push up gently through your arms. Allow your head to stay low and just allow it to be the last thing that lifts when you return back to seated. Take a moment here. Okay.
So our next pose will be supported twist. And again, if you have the bolster, that's great. If you don't have a bolster, think like Katie mentioned, towels, or actually, she said this at the beginning, sorry. Blankets or beach towels are really good. And so for this pose, you want to stack whatever you've got, blankets or beach towels or bolsters up so it's like a bolster if you don't have that. Also place a block under your stack. So whether your stack is a stack of blankets or even if you had a foam roller, so you want your support to be elevated. And then if you have an extra blanket on top of the bolster, that you might find helpful to make the bolster just a little bit higher for yourself, a little easier to access. And then sit with your right hip next to the bolster. Sorry, one other thing to maybe have, if you've got one extra blanket, I know there's lots of blankets, or a mat, that would be good, but you don't have to have this. But you'll have your right hip next to the bolster or your stack, whatever that stack includes. And then your left knee, so your knees aren't stacked on top of each other. The left knee is kind of behind the right knee, and it might set down on that blanket. And then with your right hip next to the bolster, take one hand around each side of the bolster. So you're like facing the bolster. And you're going to inhale and really lift. Exhale all the air out. Maybe twist a little bit towards the right. Inhale and lengthen the spine. Exhale all the air out. Maybe take a little deeper twist. And then begin to kind of crawl yourself forward onto that bolster or whatever stack you created for yourself. And you can turn your head to either side that feels good. Sometimes it feels good to have your head facing the same side as your knees. Sometimes it feels good to turn it the other way. If your arms are not comfortable, your forearms are not comfortable, again, placing something under them, block, bolster, blanket, anything to make yourself super comfortable. And the last thing would be this eye pillow, which is going to fall off when you put it on. So what you can do is, if you have another towel or the sleeve of a shirt, you can use that. Your eye pillow, you can try to put on, but you'll notice it's just going to kind of fall off. So that's the only downside of this pose. And then begin to feel your body just melting into the support. So as always, moving out of these poses, move really slowly and gently. Start to slide your arms on back so that your hands are under your shoulders, and use your hands to push yourself up, letting your head kind of dangle, maybe remaining even with your eyes closed. Pausing, and then begin to turn towards your left. So you're just going to sit with your back to the bolster, and just for a moment, pause here facing probably the top of your mat before we start to move to the other side. And then we'll start to transition to the second side. So this time your left hip will snug up next to the bolster. The right knee might rest on a blanket outside the left knee, with one hand on each side of the bolster. On an inhale, find length in your spine. Exhale all the air out. Deepen the twist. Inhale, find length in your spine. Exhale all the air out. Begin to melt forward. Again, placing your forearms on the mat or any support that you need. Turning your head to whichever side you didn't turn it to last time. Begin to release and relax onto this side. So very slowly and gently beginning to release the pose, by again drawing your hands underneath your shoulders, using your hands to push yourself up, letting your head kind of dangle. Gently turn back so that your back again is against the bolster or support. Lightly just rest your wrists or hands on your knees. Just pause here for a breath or two. And then I think Katie will guide us through legs up the wall.
Did you want to do supported child?
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Katie. Good thing you're paying attention. Yes, supported child. The great news is it's the same setup. So you'll still use your bolster. You can, if you'd like to, you can take some blocks to sit on or roll up a cushion or something like that. Some people, sometimes you will have enough mobility in your knees to let your hips come all the way back towards your heels. If you don't, placing a block or even a blanket between your thighs and your calves can help with that. You'll take your knees really wide, so all like straddling kind of the bolster. And then you'll begin to walk your hands forward. And then as you exhale and release down towards the bolster, just turn your head to one side. It doesn't matter which side, we'll do both sides. We'll stay for 1.5 minutes on each side. And again, if anything else needs, support, Katie just put a blanket over herself. That's a great idea. And if your knees are at all uncomfortable in this posture, putting something under your knees can also help. Or again, placing additional support between your hips, between your thighs and your calves, so that your hips are supported in some way. And maintaining the architecture of the pose, just begin to gently lift your head off the bolster and turn it to the other side. So again, gently beginning to release the pose by sliding your elbows back so that your hands are under your shoulders, and you can use your hands to push yourself up, let your head dangle. And just pause in that part of the posture. So sitting, still facing your bolster, neither hands on your thighs or even on the bolster. Let your mind and body settle. And then gently beginning to move anything out of the way that you might be seated on so that you can begin to come up to your knees and kind of walk yourself back away from your bolster, and then just turn to a comfortable seated posture where now we'll do legs up the wall.
Oh, that felt so good. Okay. Legs up the wall is next, and so you will need a wall for this one. So if you have to move somewhere, you can do that. But what we'll want is our block or bolster or rolled up towel that'll be going under our hips, and then maybe blanket to support our head, and if you have your eye pillow. So as we come up by the wall, also if you have a yoga strap, this is a really, it's a nice to have for this one, and I'll show Kathy, do you have your strap? And okay, go ahead and put it through the buckle actually around your, and you want to just kind of have it around your kind of shins, your lower part of just your leg, in a comfortable spot there, and I'll tell you why. If you don't have it, it'll be okay, but if you do, it can be nice to have. Okay, and so as we come up near the wall, we want to place what we want to lift our hips with. So if you think a little bit back to bridge pose where we had a lift in our hips to help make our tailbone and everything feel good and lift them a little bit, place that about a foot away from the wall. So you can have that, again, block, bolster, roll up towel, and then maybe place your blanket and eye pillow maybe about 3 feet away from that, so that's approximately where we'll be, but we'll adjust as we go. We should be within reaching distance then. And let's just go ahead and sit next to our block or bolster with our, on the right side of it, really either side, but just for the sake of explaining it. Are you set with your stuff, Kathy? Okay, so we're going to be swinging, so you can kind of swing your legs. You can use a strap if you have it, but we want to allow our legs to come up, and then we want to be able to slide that lift underneath our hips. Let me see. Okay, and then if you had that blanket, you could adjust it under your head. But chances are we didn't, set our stuff in the exact right spot. We were just guessing. So just know you're going to have to probably take some adjustments here. If you do have the strap around your legs, and it's nice because you can not even have to worry about, keeping your legs up there. They won't fall apart. You can try and let go kind of completely. So if it feels good to have a little bend in your knees, that's fine. If you end up wanting more or less lift under your hips, or if maybe you picked something that was uncomfortable, we can switch it. But once you feel good, then if you have something to cover your eyes, that'll be nice. Kathy took her arms out wide, which is great. Opening up chest and shoulders again, if that feels good. And if it doesn't, you can select any other arm position. Maybe a hand on your heart and on your belly, or arms to your sides, whatever feels good for you. So this can be a really refreshing pose. Get a nice hamstring stretch. We don't want, anything too deep or intense. We want it to feel really, really good. But this one can be really good for blood circulation. Allows lymph and other fluids to flow to the parts of the body and just really refreshes your system. So stay here for a couple minutes and just allow your body to kind of melt in, finding your breath. So just, I should mention there are some contraindications for this pose. So if it doesn't feel good, of course, adjust or come out of it. But sometimes certain cases of hypertension or glaucoma or even a hernia may make this not be exactly the kind of pose that you want today. So if that's the case, maybe just coming out of it early if you're knit or just skipping it. Your hamstrings should feel comfy, not overstretched. Maybe just a little wiggling your toes or fingers. And we're going to gently slide our legs down so that we can come to our side. If you want to pull your knees in, be careful as you roll onto your side off. If you're on a block, you want to make sure that you don't hurt yourself or fall off or have anything really jarring. You're lying on your side for a moment, head on your arm, just resting. Whenever you're ready to do so, then start to bring yourself up on your head. And then bring that back up once you find a comfortable seated position and then a strap off to take that off and adjust. Just taking your time, there's no rush. Pausing for a moment seated. And I will turn it over to Kathy for our last sort of pose today.
And we'll move into so for anyone who would like to just go there. But we'll offer some options to make it a little bit more supportive. Given that you've got all your props out, let's try to, we can use some of them. So a few options are to have a blanket or a small towel for underneath your head. Since we will be in a little longer Shavasana tonight. And then you can also have a couple other things to pull together here. You might feel like you want to have either a bolster or a rolled up blanket or a rolled up beach towel underneath your knees can feel nice. A blanket to cover yourself can feel good. You might also feel comfortable or more comfortable having something to rest your forearms on, so like blocks. Of course, you don't need any of those. You guys know Shavasana is magical, just like it is. But if you've got the props near you, might be fun to try some. And then, of course, your good old handy eye pillow or a towel or something to cover your eyes. So if you're going to use the towel or rolled up blanket for your knees, you can put it under like a bolster and then begin to lie back with your head on the other blanket, covering yourself with the blanket, maybe letting your arms, your forearms, if it feels good, to rest up a little bit so they're supported. And then begin to release any connection to your breath. Begin to find relaxation in every part of your body, starting with your toes, moving up towards your feet, tops of your legs, your pelvic area, your abdomen, your chest, your shoulders, your upper arms, lower arms, wrists, palms, backs of the hands and fingers. Begin to find softness and release in your forehead, a space between your eyebrows, your nose, your cheeks, your jaw, your throat, and your heart. Allowing the universe to support you as you continue to release, relax, and let go.
So you are welcome to stay in Shavasana as long as you have. But I will also guide you out if it's time for you to release the posture. Beginning to just invite some gentle movement, starting maybe just with your fingers and toes. And as you're ready, drawing your knees into your chest one at a time and pausing here. Remaining connected to that powerful sensation of releasing and support. And then rolling over onto your right side and all the way onto your right arm, remaining with your eyes closed, but just resting here. This is our pose of rebirth. And again, we will use our hands to gently push ourselves up, letting the head dangle and be the last thing up. You then just slowly make your way back into a comfortable seated position. Maybe resting again with your wrists on your knees or your palms turned over on your knees as you allow your attention to come back to your breath. Noticing the ease of the breath. Maybe noticing the connection to the quiet and stillness that's within you. And then drawing our hands to a prayer position in front of our hearts, bowing our heads. Just be grateful for the practice and to yourself for making time for this very healing practice this evening. And then we'll raise our thumbs to our third eye, and on an inhale, lift our hearts. Exhaling as we bow forward, the light in me bows to the light in each of you. Namaste. So if you'd like to turn your video back on, you can feel free to. If you're still resting in Shavasana, that's all really great.
Stop the recording first.
Yeah, I'll stop it.